Hey, welcome back to another video. This is a viewer request, and I read this earlier today, and I wanted to just make a quick video just to answer this because it's kind of a troubling situation, and I can feel for how the situation the person's in. So the message goes, Duane, my fiance has children with a narcissist, and of course she is making our lives hell, as well as her children. They are exhibiting anxiety, headaches, can't sleep. My fiance feels helpless to change the outlandish parenting plan and fears going to war with her. The thing is, I love him, but I'm unhappy, depressed, and can't continue to live under her thumb. What can I do to save myself from this situation? Do I leave? Okay, so it's a really good question, and it's a tough situation. And the thing is that you and your fiance really have to have excellent, outstanding communications to really be able to get through this. And the second part of that is that you really have to both be really working to take control of the situation. Now, when I say take control of the situation, that doesn't mean taking control of the ex, but it means taking control of the influence that the ex has over you guys. And this may not be possible, and if it's not, then you really have to ultimately decide, do you really want this level of chaos in your life? I get how I think most of the times when people get into relationships with people who have really toxic exes, they think, it's not that bad. It's just a normal situation to where they hate each other and everything's exaggerated. And then when you're in the middle of it and you really start witnessing what's going on, you're like, holy cow, how can somebody be this basically evil? So the first question is you have to ask yourself is it really worth the fight? Is the lemon worth the squeeze, as they sometimes say? And that's a question that only you are going to be able to answer. You're going to have to really do some deep soul searching and really decide if it's worth it. Is this worth it? Is it worth it to have this level of chaos in there, to know what you have in store for you is more drama, more triangulation, the kids being used as a weapon, etc., etc., etc. Okay, now that sounds pretty bleak, and you could be looking at it going, well, holy crap, I don't want that. I don't want this to be my life. Here's the flip side to it. You can choose to not allow the ex to control the situation. And what I mean by the situation is how it affects you and your fiance. But that takes a tremendous amount of work and a tremendous amount of effort on your part and his part. You guys would have to look at it and just kind of say, okay, I know what the ex is. I know she's a narcissist. I know that she's going to do these things, but we still have a life that's a good life, and we still have an opportunity to make the most of it. And the thing is, the way you have to do that, and this isn't easy, is making the conscious decision that the shenanigans that she's doing aren't going to affect you. And this looks like, this would be like whenever you make a decision and you're good if it gets destroyed, right? If you make a plan for the kids and the ex does something to mess it up. So it's like you decide to live the rest, basically the majority of the rest of your life, at least with minor children, to where at a moment's notice, the ex could destroy something, not bring the kids, be late, make a point to miss be late to where you miss a travel arrangement, and be okay with it. And that's not easy. I've chatted about that in my situation, in my relationship with Debbie, about how that has worked out, and the struggles that Debbie has had with that, with the ex basically targeting her. The other thing that happens, that the ex will find out what you're doing and will preemptively do those things. That's what happened in my situation. And it was incredibly hurtful for Debbie for that to happen. And it really made her angry. And I could see in your situation that that's probably what's happening to you in your situation as well. And it is really, really tough. And you really have to take a long, hard look at, is it worth it? You know, love is important, but these things can destroy a relationship. So what you have to do is you have to have a real conversation with your fiance and say, look, you know, how can we approach this differently? And you both have to be game for it. What it would look like is when the ex does something, it doesn't impact you. You guys think it's funny, or it doesn't negatively. What I mean is, it doesn't make you angry. It doesn't cause a triggered type response. It's a tough one. You really have to pick. You know, you really have to decide what you want to do. And the other thing that you have to remember is there's a good possibility that everything that you would do for those kids, they are still going to be in the middle, and they potentially could treat you as the enemy. That doesn't mean you still can't have a good life. I mean, to be honest, my dad and his wife, that's kind of what they went through. You know, me and my brother and I made their lives a living hell for the first part of it. But, you know, 30 years later, they're still married and they're still going strong. So, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lost cause, but you really have to think about it. And you really have to understand what you're getting into. And then you have to take, if you're planning on staying, you have to take active steps to minimize what the ex is going to do and how they're going to affect everything. And that's doable. That is absolutely doable. I mean, I can take the situation I'm in now, pretty much. The ex doesn't really get to me that much, doesn't really bother Debbie that much. You know, we're more focused on what to do with our lives and what we can do with the kids. And we just don't make plans that we tell the kids, and we don't make plans that lock things in. And if we ever did, we would have to have the realization that somehow the ex could ruin it and be okay with it. This isn't easy. This is absolutely not easy. It's really tough to do, and it takes a tremendous amount of work. If you're not ready for it, and if your ex isn't ready for it, then maybe you either walk away, or you slow down and give yourself more time. And that's pretty much what Debbie and I have done. We've slowed down our relationship to where we're not pushing things, and we're kind of targeting everything to really happen once all the kids are 18. I have one kid left that's 13 that's still, just getting ready to start high school next year. There's a potential that we might, speed up that timeline. Keep in mind that I think Debbie and I would have been dating for like 5 years, I think. So, we've already been taking a long time. So I know that's not an outstanding answer, but it's a realistic answer. I don't want to tell you some pie in the sky thing, because at the end of the day, when you're by yourself, or whenever it's just you and your fiance, and you're trying to wrap your head around this, it's a real issue. It's a real struggle and a real problem. I think it's doable. I think that if you guys work together on it, you can do it, but you both have to be on the same page, and you both have to be willing to take that step to get closer to letting all this stuff go. So if I didn't completely capture everything with it, please feel free to leave more in the comments below, or send me an email, and I can try to address it in more detail. But just from the little part that I read, I think that's my take on it. So don't give up, but you also have to be honest with yourself. So on that, I will chat with you guys on the next video. Take care. Bye.